Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor is not happy with Trump, and Trump's not very happy with her either. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to look at the actual document, and I've got some headlines for you, so stay with me. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I wanted to show you this. I found this little calculator here. We were talking in the last video about the book sales for Comey and McCabe and so forth, and we noticed that Comey and McCabe's books, the hardcover copy, was selling for like $4 or $5, and it was a lot less than what the ebook and the paperback were selling for, which is very unusual. So I wanted to show you this. This is a little calculator. You can figure out approximately how many copies of a book are being sold on Amazon by using the Amazon sales rank for that book. So let's look at it. Here is the McCabe book, and what you do is you go down here to the product details and get to the one that says Amazon bestsellers rank. And then this number right here is what you're going to choose. And you copy it and paste it in here. I already did. Make sure you take out the comma because it can't have a comma. And then you have to identify what kind of book it is. And in this case, this was the ebook. If you go back up here, see it was the Kindle version. So this is approximately how many he's selling. Yeah, it sells approximately 65 per month or 4 sales per day. So it's kind of interesting how it works. Now, if you go here to Comey, this is Comey's, and this is the regular book. This is not the ebook. It's the regular book. So we put it in here, and you see you have to remove that comma and then change it from ebook to just book. And so, yeah, that's how he's doing. Not so hot. He sells 18 of them in a month and 1 per day approximately. And you know it's less than that if he only sells 18 in a month. So, but then, you know, I was looking at these because this is what we were talking about, that the hardcover is $4 here, and the paperback and the Kindle are both much more expensive. Same thing here with Comey's, that you have $5 for the hardcover, and these are a lot less, which indicates to me maybe they did a print run and there weren't, you know, enough people buying it, so they just want to get rid of them. I don't know, at least the hardcover. So anyway, then I went to this one, which was Clapper. Well, Clapper has a book out too. His book, this is just the paperback version of it. So it's a book, let's calculate. And so he's selling more than Comey. Clapper's book sells more than Comey's. I think that's kind of funny. But if you look at Clapper's up here, check it out. The hardcover book is selling for what? $20. This is what it should look like. When you look at the prices, this is how they should look. But this isn't how they look on McCabe and Comey's. And I just wanted to point that out to you. I'll leave the link for this down below because I think it's kind of handy. And especially if you're an author, it's interesting to find out how much these people are making on these books, right? Now, obviously, this is an estimate, but based on the sales that and the rank there, that should be, you know, pretty much what it comes across. So anyway, I thought I'd leave that for you. And then I wanted to show you this too, because again, this is another anti-Trump book. I'm sure you heard about it, Fire and Fury. And we have the same thing where the hardcover is at least priced about the same as the paperback. So, you know, it's just very unusual. Hardcovers usually sell at about $20 or somewhere right around there. And then you can usually get the paperbacks for about 10 or so, and the Kindle is comparable to that. So I don't know. And how much they make off of each one, it all has to do with their publishing contract because there are different percentages. Now with the Kindle, it depends on how you are getting that through Amazon. I've heard there is one method that ends up giving you like 70%. But of course, if you're going through a traditional publisher like these have been, then you're going to have, the publisher's going to take their big chunk. So there was a big hullabaloo about this a year or 2, 3, 4 ago. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But they had a big thing about it because publishers and the authors were kind of going at it, trying to, fight it out about this Kindle version because of, it doesn't really cost anything to make because it's all electronic. There's no paper cost like there is with the paperback and the hardcover. So yeah, most authors wanted more money, from the Kindle version, and the price setting, and it was a big to-do in the whole publishing industry. But anyway, I have a few things that I want to give you first, and again, all of these links will be down below. They're in the description. It's usually a little triangle, or if you're on here, you go down to the show more and click that, and it'll open it up and give you the links. But you will need to click something to open up the description, and then you'll have all of the links for these. But this is a very good interview if you've not seen it yet. This is with Nate Cain, who is an FBI whistleblower. You need to hear this guy's story. If you haven't heard it yet, definitely listen, because he's got quite a story, and it's sad that this is what real whistleblowers have been going through, and then to know that they're protecting the fake whistleblower, it's a little irritating, the guy, because we've seen the complaint that the whistleblower put in, and when you compare it to the actual transcript, it's not truthful. So we can see that. And this guy, on the other hand, had actual evidence. So anyway, wanted to point that out to you. If you're a follower of the 17th letter of the alphabet, you may already have gotten the tip on that and watched it. But if you haven't watched it, please do. It's well worth watching. And then here's an interview that you'll also need to be aware of. This is Corey Feldman. And he used his own money to make a movie. And it's like a movie. It is going to be played at an online streaming, and it's only going to be shown that one time as a live stream. So if you want to get tickets to it, here is the link to that, and it's definitely something that I think needs to be viewed. If he makes enough money off of this, selling the tickets, I think the tickets are like $20. I'm not sure. And here's how much time you have until it actually happens. But it will be a live stream, and there's only one performance. But if he makes enough off of this, then he'll be able to do more performances. Okay? It's just when you're talking about bandwidth that is as massive as what he's hoping for, it's going to be huge. And so, yeah, I recommend you listen to this because he's really out there fighting to clean up things in Hollywood, especially. And this is his truth. Now, he's not telling anybody else's story, well, except his friend Corey's. And so, other than that, what he tells you in this is truth. It may not be everybody else's story. It may not be what they've experienced, but it is his. And, it needs to be told. It really does. Okay, and then I wanted to point this out to you because I'm recording this very late, well, actually early Wednesday, February 26th, but this video will come out Wednesday morning. Anyway, this is, I think, the day that O'Keefe from Project Veritas is going to put out a new undercover video exposing ABC News' agenda to mislead voters. Could be interesting. So I don't know exactly what he's got going on here, but he always comes up with good stuff. And here's his scoop in response to tomorrow's upcoming Expose ABC release. ABC News has suspended the correspondent involved. Stay tuned. I think that's very interesting. And he says, this is on the 25th, so Wednesday is when this should come out. So it should come out the same day as this video. Anyway, those are the things that I wanted to give you. The links will all be down below. I think they're all well worth checking out because these are big things that are really starting to happen. and they're going to cause a lot of ripple effect that's going to cause other things to happen. And yeah, for those who have been a little impatient, things are starting to heat up. And some of this stuff has to happen first before we can get going on the real heart of the issue. But anyway, so let's talk about Sotomayor. Now, Sotomayor is a Supreme Court justice, and y'all know that. She's definitely Democrat, and she was appointed, to be this wise Hispanic. That's who they were trying to tout her as. Well, she wrote a dissenting opinion, and I'm sure you probably already heard that she wrote it, but I want to show you what she actually said, because, sometimes you just hear it through the news and the grapevine, but you don't see the actual document. And you know me, I like the real documents, so this is it. And what had happened, and we've talked about this before, that the Democrats are doing all these lawsuits against the Trump administration. I mean, it's really serious how many they have done. And I'll show you the statistics on that in a minute. But what they're doing is they're getting these judges, like for the Ninth Circuit, although now the Ninth Circuit has flipped. So yeah, Trump was able to do that. If you haven't heard about it, this is huge because it was very liberal and it's not anymore. So, this is going to hopefully stop this from happening. But what they were doing, these liberal judges were upholding these stays of federal orders. And so when laws, especially immigration laws, were going to be enacted, they couldn't be because this judge would say, no, we need to stay on this while it's going through litigation. So they wouldn't be able to do it. They did this with the ban, the travel ban at first when Trump first got into office, and he put that legitimate travel ban in place, and they tried to claim it was, Muslims, and it wasn't against the Muslims. A lot of the countries were Muslim, but that's because they were the ones that had issues with the paperwork, and they also had more suspects that were caught up with ISIS and Al-Qaeda and everything else. So there was a reason why Trump did that. And the countries that he had on that list were the same ones Obama had. So it wasn't like he did anything unusual. It's just this is their technique. This is the tactic that they're doing. They're going through the legal system, and they've been hitting the Trump administration hard, suing them for everything. I mean, every time you turn around, they sue them for something. Well, this whole idea of these stays, very, very bad for our entire country, because it's like one judge then can overturn our entire legal system, essentially. The Congress, when Congress implements a law, and then President Trump, as the head of the executive branch, his job is to make sure those laws are upheld. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what the executive does. So it really has been hampering what they can do. And so the Trump administration has been kind of putting in emergency requests to the Supreme Court. Well, here's one they had. The Supreme Court ruled to say, yeah, we're going to hold off on this stay, so they can't do that. Well, Sotomayor and of course the others, Ginsburg and Breyer and Kagan, all joined in on this, which that makes 4, out of the 9. They joined in against it. Anyway, Sotomayor, though, not only wanted to say, yeah, I'm against this, but she also wanted to say, here's why. And I'm going to tell you because I think it's totally unfair. And that's pretty much what she did here. Today's decision follows a now familiar pattern. The government seeks emergency relief from this court, asking it to grant a stay where 2 lower courts have not. The government insists, even though review in a court of appeals is imminent, that it will suffer irreparable harm if this court does not grant a stay, and the court yields. But this application is perhaps even more concerning than past ones. Just weeks ago, this court granted a stay of a different decision involving the same administrative rule at issue here after the government professed urgency because of the form of relief granted in the prior case, a nationwide injunction. And see, this is the issue. They've been doing all these injunctions, not a good thing. And like I said, it is a way to get around the law and to stop the law from being implemented, which should not be able to happen. One judge should not be able to do that and to stop all these people we put into office and what we've hired them to do. And in this case, she says, but the injunction in this case is limited to one state, Illinois. The government cannot state with precision any of the supposed harm that would come from the Illinois-specific injunction, and the Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit has scheduled oral arguments for next week. So she's basically saying, well, they've got this appeal and it's scheduled, so why in the world are you in such a hurry to get this stopped? Well, the reason is because the laws need to be implemented. They're part of the immigration law and everything. And if we wait, it could take months. And it would be after our election in November. That would be the problem. And that's why she's so upset. She thinks they should just wait. And, well, of course, we know why. But anyway, so she goes on. And she's saying that the government can't tell what the supposed harm is that would come from the Illinois-specific part of it. The government's professed harm, therefore, boils down to an inability to enforce its immigration goals. Well, yes, because the immigration goals are what's keeping our country safe, and they're going to help keep the election safe. Possibly in only the immediate term in one of 50 states. Yeah. Only in the immediate term. That's her hope that Trump's not going to be reelected. She's going to be disappointed. She better be ready to catch those tears. It is hard to say what is more troubling, that the government would seek this extraordinary relief seemingly as a matter of course, or that the court would grant it. See, she's not just complaining about Trump. That's when she says the government, that's who she means. But she's talking about the court. And when she's talking about that, she means the 5 other people, the conservatives, that are going along with the Trump administration on this, because she thinks it's totally wrong of them to do that. This case concerns a provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act that renders inadmissible any non-citizen who, quote, is likely at any time to become a public charge. And this is essentially what this is. The law that is in question is one that would stop people who are immigrating to our country but who have no ability to pay for anything, and they're going to end up being on the government dole. And Trump wants to stop that. It's huge, really, because it's draining resources that need to go to American citizens. In August 2019, the Department of Homeland Security issued a regulation that changed this long-standing definition of, what it means to be a public charge. And so this new regulation, the public charge rule, now defines a, quote, public charge as, quote, an alien who receives one or more designated public benefits for more than 12 months in the aggregate within any 36-month period, such that, for instance, receipt of 2 benefits in 1 month counts as 2 months. The regulation also expands the type of benefits that may render a non-citizen inadmissible, including non-cash benefits such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, formerly food stamps, most forms of Medicaid, and various forms of housing assistance. So again, she's ticked off because she's very pro-illegal immigration. She definitely is. Well, all 4 of the Democrats that, well, technically they're not Democrats, but they're liberals, that's for sure. Several lawsuits followed, one of which reached this court last month, and it was this one right here. The government, in no small part, insisted that it was entitled to a stay because of the scope of relief awarded below. The district court in the New York cases imposed a nationwide injunction that, quote, rendered effectively academic the government's successful litigation on the public charge rule elsewhere. The government's unquestionable focus was the scope of that injunction. Its stay application used the word, quote, nationwide 34 times. So this is what she's complaining about. And over the dissent of 4 justices, well, this is how it works, dear. sometimes you're outnumbered. And that just so happens to be what it is with the Supreme Court right now, that you are outnumbered. And it's going to be even more outnumbered because Ruth Bader Ginsburg has said she's going to step down after her birthday. And her birthday is March 15th, which is coming up very fast. And at that point, they won't let Trump appoint somebody until after the election. But that's not really that bad because then it makes it 5-3. So that should be interesting. Now, I don't know. Maybe she'll change her mind. Ginsburg will stay in, whatever, or whoever. So anyway, 2 justices concurred in the grant of the stay, emphasizing the government did the equitable and constitutional questions raised by the rise of nationwide injunctions. It's going to come down to where they have to actually address this issue of nationwide injunctions, because that's just not possible when you're dealing with the different things that they have been, fighting against. The nationwide injunctions are huge because, again, one person, one judge, one liberal judge can stop it all. And that's just not right. For the entire country? No. We didn't vote for that judge. I don't know. I don't want that judge doing that. I don't want him to have that kind of power. And so no member of the court discussed the application's merit apart from its challenges to the injunction's nationwide scope. So they agreed on that one because it was nationwide. But this one, she's complaining about, it's only for the state of Illinois, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. Yeah. So she continues to whine here as she goes on. And this is only the public charge rule in Illinois. And she says, after the district court declined to stay enforcement of its injunction pending appeal, the government asked the 7th Circuit to intervene and stay the injunction itself. On December 23, 2019, the 7th Circuit declined and instead set an expedited briefing schedule to ensure prompt consideration of the issue. As part of that expedited schedule, the 7th Circuit set oral argument for February 26, 2020, 5 days from now. Notably, the government initially chose not to appeal the 7th Circuit decision denying a stay. Instead, while letting the normal appellate process play out in this case, it urged this court, which would be the Supreme Court, to review a later issued decision granting a nationwide injunction, in no small part because it was a nationwide injunction. Yet now that this court acceded to that request, the government wants more. It asked this court to grant a stay of the district court's considered and considerably narrower order below. So when you go through this, really her complaint is that the Trump administration is getting special treatment, she thinks. And, she goes through all of this. And when you get down to, I think it's this one right here. Yeah, here it is. Here's claiming one emergency after another. The government has recently sought stays in an unprecedented number of cases, demanding immediate attention and consuming limited court resources in each. And with each successive application, of course, its cries of urgency ring increasingly hollow. Indeed, its behavior relating to the public charge rule in particular shows how much its own definition of irreparable harm has shifted. Yeah. So, as you can see here, what she's really complaining about is that the Trump administration keeps bringing in one emergency situation after another because, the Supreme Court can only rule on certain things. I mean, they can't rule on all cases that are brought to them because there's simply not enough time in their schedule to be able to do that. They not only hear the cases, but they have to go through volumes of, legal documents and stuff that are provided, the evidence, and pages and pages and pages. So it takes a long time for them to go through these and to do the discussion between themselves to try to figure out what their ruling is going to be. It's not something that can be done overnight. So it does tie up the Supreme Court resources. I understand that, and I agree with her on that. However, the idea that it's one emergency after another, she seems to think that each successive application, of course, its cries of urgency ring increasingly hollow. So, it's not really an emergency, but they're claiming it is. Well, the problem is this, okay? Now, if you look at this article here from the Free Beacon, you got to come down here to the bottom, because look at this. The cause of the increase in stay applications is much debated. Sotomayor was correct that there have been an increase in these emergency stay applications because of the procedure that the Democrats are using, where they go to the courts, they find a friendly court that will grant it, and then it mucks everything up for quite a while and slows down the process, and they are desperate to keep these things from being implemented before the November election. So that's what they want. And with our court system as slow as it is, it's totally, possible that it could happen. But look at this. Attorney General William Barr said the recent proliferation of nationwide injunctions is to blame during a 2019 speech to the American Law Institute. So, they are putting in, the Democrats have all these lawsuits. Why do you think that there's more that the Trump administration has to bring to the Supreme Court? Well, look at this. According to Justice Department estimates, courts issued just 27 nationwide injunctions in the entire 20th century. By comparison, judges have entered 40 nationwide injunctions against the Trump administration. So 3 years. In 3 years, we had twice as many as in the entire 20th century. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that should show you what the problem is. And so this last paragraph says, when a nationwide injunction constrains a significant executive policy, the Justice Department has little choice but to seek emergency relief, Barr said. No one benefits from emergency litigation. Not the government, not the plaintiffs, not the courts. But the alternative is for the government to wait months or years for appeals to run their course before the executive may implement its policy at all. And that's the issue right there. Boom. That's the problem. They want to postpone all of these things that Trump's doing to secure our elections, to secure the immigration, and to keep people who are here illegally from, using all this American aid and funds from the government that should be going to American citizens. So I'm also going to include this link, which is the Blaze, and they talk about what she did, and there she is. So now the thing is with Trump, I think, is this one? No, I'm sorry. There was another one I was looking at, but it was, I think, the Washington Post, and, I hate using theirs. But anyway, the reason that Trump was tweeting about this and that he mentioned it, I believe, during a press conference over in India, the reason is because the Supreme Court justices are supposed to be apolitical. They're not supposed to be political at all. They're supposed to be apart from politics. That was the purpose for not having them elected and having them appointed instead. Because in order to be just, they shouldn't be, beholden to people that, campaign for this or campaign for that. When you're involved in the political side of things, it can definitely bias how you make your decisions. And so when Sotomayor and earlier Ruth Bader Ginsburg spoke out against Trump, those were two instances that should not have happened. This should not have happened because she was pretty much taken to task the conservative justices, and she was, claiming that they have a pro-Trump bias. Well, you know what? She's got an anti-Trump bias. So there's no way that she should be ruling on anything having to do with this administration. Because, once again, this is like the juror, the head of the jury on Roger Stone, so prejudiced, and yet they're making the decisions. So this is one of the things that made Trump tweet like he did, because this needs to be addressed. And yes, I think they really should recuse themselves on matters concerning Trump because they have an anti-Trump bias. And it's just not right. They're ruling on their desire to stop Trump. That's what I think's happening. And especially in those two cases. Now, you've not heard anything from the other ones, but you have heard from those two. And it just is something that they're not supposed to do as Supreme Court justices. That shouldn't be something that they are part of at all. So, yeah, that's what we've got. And the situation with Trump being upset at them, I can understand it. And after reading through the whole thing, she really should not have been so blatant in her anti-Trump bias there. So I can understand, and it would be nice if she'd recuse herself. But unfortunately, judges choose whether to recuse themselves or not. And I just can't see either one of them choosing to recuse themselves on Trump matters. And as for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as it gets closer to the time, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she'll hold on. I don't know. It doesn't matter, except it could be a difference between some opinions, because if they can get just one of the other justices, the conservative justices, to agree with them, then they can make opinions like that. But with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her seat will not be filled until after the election. But we know that Trump is going to be elected, right? Yeah. Anyway, I'll put all these links down below. That's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.